like this queen c8 move. It's really nice. Essentially no rook d7, no rook g4. Queen keeps an eye on the b7 pawn. And one step at a time, we're just getting closer to pushing e6. Hello everybody, my name is Emil Stefanov, International Master, and as usual, I will be your guide in this weekly scenario in Noctie, week number 23. Let's get started. We continue playing through positions that occurred in the most recent FIDE Candidates Tournament. This position occurred in round 10 between Javokhir Sindarov and Praggnanandhaa. In this position, Javokhir is winning, and in fact, he did manage to win the game, converted into a very nice win. The reason he's up material is because he has a queen and 2 pawns, so 11 points of material versus 2 rooks, which is 10 points of material. But that 1 point of material is actually counted a lot higher due to the nature of the position. The rooks are really powerful when they're connected, when they're working together as a team, and when they have immediate threats, such as checkmating threats or perpetual threats. In this situation, we can see that the rooks are in fact not connected. Also, an important factor is black's king. The black's king position is extremely weak. It's out in the open, and there are multiple opportunities for us to give a check. If the king was, let's say, on b8, then that would be a little bit of a different story. We will not be able to give any checks, but then the pawn is actually very dangerously pushed. So, what we need to watch out for with white is not allowing perpetual check. Essentially, a winning situation for us will be if we can clear out all of the opponent's pawns and we save about 2 or 3 pawns, which is a huge likelihood. Alternatively, any sort of pawn endgame is also winning for us, so if there's an opportunity for us to give up our queen for 2 rooks somehow, then that's also going to be winning. The only thing that we need to be careful of is this rook potentially not allowing rook f6 and rook f1 getting checkmated, obviously due to the pawn on h3. So my very first goal with the white pieces is going to be to take this pawn on h3. So I need to distract this rook. So I'm already thinking about the move e6. As I mentioned, the rook will go here and attack the f1 square. So what I want to start with is queen to g4. I want to give a check to the opponent, and then here I'm going to play e6. So as you can see, it's a good move. Noctie agrees with me. And my whole point is very simple. If you go for this idea, then you're going to be losing the h3 pawn. And it's going to be coming with a check. So Noctie has to play rook e8, or rook e8 just in general. And this is where I'm pretty happy. I know I'm going to be losing this pawn. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of ways in which we can give checks to the opponent king, pick up some pawns. But most importantly, now our king is no longer cut. So in fact, I have this opportunity to play king to f2. And with this move, king f2, I'm ensuring that my king is no longer going to be threatened in any checkmate ways or any perpetual checks. And as we can see, Noctie just recaptures rook takes e6. Now, if Noctie were to recapture with the other rook, then the h3 pawn will fall. The disadvantage of recapturing back with this rook is the problem that the rooks are unable to connect against my king on the second rank or on an open file. So what we could start thinking about are ways in which we can improve our position. So there is already the aforementioned queen d4 check, which I quite like. Alternatively, we could also just go for a slightly simpler move like king e2. The reason I like king e2 is because we run away from any dangerous checks on the f-file. So now queen d4 is in fact going to be a check. Let's see how Noctie continues. Of course, I did give up my pawn. I still haven't recaptured the h3 pawn, but I trust in my position. We see Noctie playing rook to g6, rook e to g6. In this case, I'm gladly going to play queen to c8, and I'm going to have the opportunity to pick up the c7 pawn as well. So this is what I was talking about, the enemy king being out in the open. We have easy access to easy checks. So queen c7. Alternatively, queen b7 was also fine in my opinion. But queen c7 also looked good, so I just went for it. Potentially b7 and picking up the a7 pawn may have been slightly better. So now we just need to decide where we want to position the queen. And I'm thinking about the c8 square. Once again, we're just keeping an eye on this. We're keeping an eye on checks. We're keeping an eye on the pawn on h3. So I quite like that move, queen c8. As we can see, the engine says great. Now, what's going to be our plan? It's going to be just to push the pawn. We're going to combine checks, improving our king, and pushing the pawn all together. Remember, any pawn endgame, we're going to be winning. So if we trade the queen and this pawn for 2 rooks, then we're absolutely winning. So we can see Noctie plays rook f7. That makes a lot of sense. Just keeping an eye on the f-file and blocking me from playing queen f5. But this is where I start pushing my pawn, e4. As we can see, it's an excellent move. If rook hf6, then we're going to recapture the h3 pawn with a check. And my plan, once again, is very simple. I'm going to improve my king, I'm going to improve my pawn, and at some moment I'm going to force Noctie to give up the h3 pawn. That is my objective, but I'm going about it in a very long way. So we can see king g7 was played. Now, I could give a check, but I could also play e5. I can also play king e3. The options are a lot, and I, in fact, do like king e3. We are just improving our king one step at a time. So I'm not letting my king separate from the pawn too much. After e5, we can continue pushing with king e4. Now, Noctie plays rook hf6. So Noctie now is going to be looking for some activity. However, Noctie does lose the h3 pawn, as already mentioned. So we're just going to capture this pawn. And we always have the ability to bring our queen with checks, with tempos. So that's why I didn't give the check on g4. I first going to take, and later I'm going to utilize the check. Now I'm going to go king d4. My king wants to be active. I know it's going towards the center, but I'm really dodging a lot of the checks this way, and I'm going to be utilizing the pawn as a helping hand. So as you can see, I'm going to continue pushing e5, all in one sort of wave, right? One thing after the other. And Noctie can't defend everything. Noctie cannot defend against this pawn. Noctie cannot defend against the checks. It just will not be able to do everything. So rook h6, queen g4, as already mentioned, that's where we want to go. And now let's see if Noctie chooses any of these 2 squares or blocks. Blocking is fine. And we just need to maintain this queen on this diagonal. I like this queen c8 move. It's really nice. Essentially no rook d7, no rook g4. Queen keeps an eye on the b7 pawn. And one step at a time, we're just getting closer to pushing e6. As we see rook e7 is played, we can now start probably pushing these pawns as well. Or we can continue with the mentioned strategy of king d5, just continuing to support the pushed pawn. My only concern here is that there is rook g5, and I don't know how I progress. In a way, I'm going to be pinned. Could play queen b8 once again. That endgame is winning for us. We have the extra pawns. Alternatively, we could just play something like queen f5, but then there is rook f7. Noctie will continue to attack us. h4 is there as well, but we do surrender the g3 pawn. We don't want to be doing that, of course. And king d5 does look natural. After queen b8, Noctie's rooks are kind of paralyzed. There's not really a way to make advancements. Yes, there's rook d7, but we could just reroute back the king. That's one opportunity. It also makes sense to try to get the king this way, but once again, we're going to be walking into this. I'm not a big fan of that. And there is also queen d8, I should mention that. Also looks interesting. King d5 I do like because I stop rook e6, because I'll have queen e6. So if you're uncertain of what moves you want to play, you can always click on the show ideas button, and it's going to give you some of the best moves in the position. As we saw, queen f5, g4, and king d5, all the moves that I kind of discussed. Queen f5 I feel like will only repeat the position. g4 after rook g5, it's kind of hard for me to imagine protecting the pawn, so I think Noctie's idea is just to give up the pawn. But I kind of want to keep the pawn alive and then utilize these 2 later on. So after rook g5, we will play queen b8. Ooh, rook c6. I maybe kind of forgot about this move, but we always have the check, so I'm not too worried about this. So let's go ahead and give the check. Is the beautiful thing about the enemy king being in the open. So I'm going to assume rook g6 is going to be the next move. Okay. And now I'm going to play... well, I can play queen f5, rook f7, and then choose a new square for the queen. Could choose queen c8 again, but I could just choose another square. I do like queen f5, though. I do like queen f5. I think it's nice. Rook f7. And potentially queen c8, rook c6. How do we continue there exactly? I'm not quite certain. Yeah, I need to be slightly careful now. So I don't want to allow... Well, rook d7 check is not going to be the end of the world. Let's say I move my queen somewhere else. But not the biggest fan of that. I could go queen c8, rook c6, and something like queen to e8, rook c3. I give up that pawn, but I keep pushing my other pawn with e6. And it just looks really strong. It looks really, really strong. But I do allow counterplay with the rooks, so I need to be careful there. And again, if you're ever in doubt, just press on the Show Ideas button. It's all the moves. Unfortunately, for me, it's quite obvious that any queen move wins. It's just how winning are we in fact. Seems to be that we're winning a lot. Between all these four moves, I don't like queen e4 because it takes away the square of the king. Queen h5, there's going to be rook h6, and we're kind of repeating the position. The only difference being that after queen g5, rook g6, we will have queen d8. So now that I think about it, I kind of like that a lot. Yeah, so rook h6, we will repeat, but I will get the queen to d8, which is a slight improvement in my opinion. Although yeah, there's this check, and we have to go back, king e4. Yeah, queen h5, it was good, but also... Okay, now everything is fine. There are no immediate threats. Now, finally, we can go g4. Now we're actually going to be winning. So this, we're going to play here, rook g6, we're going to play there, rook f7. We'll move the pawn, we'll move the queen out of the way. And here, yeah, we'll just continue with queen f5 and then h4, h5, g5. Finally, it comes down to these pawns on the king side. Again, that's why we wanted to remove the h3 pawn in the beginning. Noctie decides to play king g8, just sits around, but sitting is not going to save black in this position. We even have some king d5, but we could just play it simple. g5, h4, h5 is just the simple push of the pawns. It's going to be too overwhelming for Noctie to deal with all of this. So I'm assuming in a little bit we will be able to finalize the game. Although rook c6, rook c3 is kind of annoying. It is kind of there. We do have king d4 though, so we should never be afraid of that. Rook e5, but as already mentioned, this pawn endgame is simply winning for us. And any other pawn endgame similar to this one is also winning, where we have outside pass pawns on the king side. All we got to do is bring the king to the queen side, pick up those pawns, and just win. Noctie is playing in a very funny manner with rook g7. There are no stalemates or nothing like that, so I'm just going to bring my king and finalize this. The sooner the better. Alrighty, let's go back into the starting position and figure out if we had some other moves. As we saw in the first game, I played queen g4, e6. I gave up the pawn, but that allowed my king to become active, and eventually I was able to clean up the pawn on h3. Now, let's see what happens if I play immediately pawn to e6. It's a little bit of a risky move, because after rook hf6, which Noctie immediately plays, I am given the checkmate check, so I do have to be precise. I do have to play this only move, queen d1. It's only move because I'm covering checkmate. Once again, the rook trades for the queen is going to benefit me. I'm going to be in a winning pawn endgame. But after this move, in fact, I'm able to play queen g4. That's why between b5 and d3, covering the f1 square, that one was the best one, because now I get to play queen g4 check. I'm attacking the king and the rook, and now simply I'm able to pick up this pawn on h3. And in the event of this, I'm assuming we're going to have some sort of checks that essentially win the rook with some sort of double attack check. So we can see Noctie playing king e7. So now let's think about it. King e7 was played. Noctie's trying to run the king away from all the checks, which makes a lot of sense. But as in the previous game, we have these two pawns, and we have them for a reason, to push them. So we can start with the move g4. I like this. It covers the pawn on e3, and essentially I want to play queen g3, king g2, and then just start pushing them one after the other. Just move the queen out of the way. Maybe I don't even need king g3. Rook f6, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but maybe that's why I want queen g3, just to stop rook f2, get my king to g2, and the rest should be pretty straightforward. I still have a lot of checks, a lot of capabilities to give checks, and yeah, these pawns are just going to start rolling down the board. If you move your rook and disconnect them, let's say check and rook a1, something like that, the rooks are disconnected. They're not going to work as well together. So we see rook f7 played. That gives me this pawn, and I could take it freely, but I also just like the simplicity of the move g5, because the next move is going to be h4. Maybe I should have started with king g2, just not to allow rook f3. That was probably slightly better. But ultimately, the fact that we have too many checks available to us is one of the reasons why we're clearly winning. So after king g2, again, the checks here, easy peasy, we'll just give up our queen. As we can see, that's what Noctie does. But if Noctie did not do that move, then all we got to do is just keep pushing the pawns and connect that with future checks against the enemy king. Again, the only scare is if we run into some sort of a perpetual check. But in this situation, we simply trade, no problems, and the pawns are going to decide the game. Even though Noctie has 3 versus 2 on this side of the board, because we have connected pass pawns, all we got to do is just bring our king to the other side of the board. This king will never be able to pick up any of our pawns. Take it, force Noctie to play only one of 2 moves, and the next move is going to be checkmate. So let's go one last time into the starting position. The TLDR of this position is try to get rid of this pawn on h3. If you cannot right off the bat, that's okay. At some moment, for Noctie to utilize the rooks, Noctie will have to move the h6 rook. So when that happens, you are free to take the h3 pawn. Make sure your king doesn't walk into any perpetual checks or any sort of dangerous positions, and utilize your extra pawns. Even if you lose the e5 pawn, as you saw me losing it in both games, that's okay, as long as you can clear h3 or get your king active, as in the first game, you will be fine. So good luck in your games. I'll see you in the next one.